Hey folks, welcome to another math video. Tonight we're going to be using the properties to evaluate expressions. Before we do that, let's start off with a trivia question. Who are these students? What do they have to do with this lesson? I'll give you the answer to that question. I will sing the answer to that question at the end of it. Alright, so anyway, tonight officially our target is I can use the associative, commutative, and distributive properties to evaluate these expressions. Let's do this thing. Let's start off with just some targeted vocabulary that we've been talking about for the last 3 lessons. First of all, we got the old distributive property. That means we can break apart 3 times 2 plus 3 and write it as 3 times 2 plus 3 times 3. Or we can go vice versa. We can take this, 3 times 2 plus 3 times 3, and we can take that 3 and put it out front and multiply it by the sum of 2 plus 3. The associative property. Remember what we can do with that? We can move the brackets around when multiplying or adding like this. 2 times 3 times 4 equals 2 times 3 times 4. Look at 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. All I did was move the brackets. Here I did 2 times 3 first. Here I'm going to do 3 times 4 first. I did the same thing here with addition. So if you have a string of digits that you're multiplying or a string of digits you're adding, you can group them however you want. It just doesn't matter. Commutative property, same thing. We can move the numbers around when multiplying and adding here. I put dividing, multiplying, and adding. Very simply, 3 times 4 is equal to 4 times 3. 2 plus 3 is equal to 3 plus 2. It just doesn't matter. In case you're wondering what movie that was from, it was from Meatballs, kind of a quirky movie. I don't know, the 80s. Ask your parents. All right, we're going to start right out of the chute today with a pause problem. Go ahead and use the properties or don't use the properties to evaluate this. Go ahead. Evaluate means solve. Well, if I were going to do this, I know that 12 plus 6 is 18, but I don't know what 4 times 18 is. But I do know that 4 times 12 is 48. I know that 4 times 6 is 24. And I do know that 48 and 24 are 72. What? Yeah, that's why I solved it. Some people might know that, it might be simpler for them to think, they know what 4 times 18 is. I didn't know what it was. So I distributed it out and it worked. All right. How about this one here? This one here. What? Now we're going to use multiple properties. Watch how I do this. Okay, so I have no idea how to solve this in my head. Yeah, I could do it with a calculator, but let's do it in our heads. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the associative property. I'm going to go over here and say, hey, I'm going to do 25 times 10 because I know that that's 250. Now I'm looking at 4 times 6 times 250. Okay, well, I don't know what 24 times 250 is, but I can use the commutative property and take and move that 250 over here, and I know that 4 times 250 is 1,000. Then I have 1,000 times 6. Slam bam, thank you, ma'am. 6,000. I used multiple properties to solve that. I did not use a calculator. I'd like you to try one. Multiple properties. See what you can do with this one. Go for it. All right, well, you may have done it a different way than I did, but here's the way I would do it. The first thing I would do is I would use the associative property, and I would take and group 17 and group the 17 and the 33, and I also used the commutative property at the same time. So I moved it and rewrote it. I put these compatible terms together. All right. Next thing, well, I knew that that was 50. Then I took and I used the associative property, and then I grouped these guys together because I knew that 38 plus 2 they were also compatible. I got 40 plus 50, 90. Slam bam, thank you, man. Right? What? You can use two properties at the same time? Sure you can. It's all addition. You can group them how you want. You can move the numbers around. All right, you're in charge. Yeah, but look at this cool problem. I'm just going to distribute it. The distributive property is going to have a multiplication out front like 50 times something, and sometimes they have that dot, sometimes they don't. But they're going to have a plus or minus sign inside here. Don't confuse this. This is not the distributive property. This is just straight multiplying. Okay? So, how would you solve it? Well, let's think about this without a calculator. First of all, I would write it like this because I think this is simpler. Okay? Then, I would actually take the parentheses out because I think it's even simpler without the parentheses in. Okay? So now I'm down to this. Now, I'm going to probably take and use the associative property and the commutative property, and I'm going to take and flip that 4 over there and do 50 times 4, which is going to give me 200, and then I can take the 200 times 7. I got the com property in here too. Sorry. And again, I used two properties at the same time. Associative property and the commutative property to solve that bad boy to get the 1400. All right, your turn. Use the properties, don't use the properties. If you use the properties, you probably don't need to use the calculator. Just two problems. Go ahead and do it. Alrighty then. I know you're dying to hear me sing. I had to come down here in the basement by myself so I wouldn't wake the family up. Who are these dudes and what do they have to do with this lesson? Well, it's Kool and the Gang. Or as this German girl I met on a train in 1985 said, it's Kool and the Gang. Anyway, what do they have to do with this lesson? Had this monster hit 1980 called Celebration. I think I was a sophomore in high school. I was a sophomore for the first time then. Yeah, it's a long story. Anyway, celebration time, come on. It's a celebration. Except this song here tonight, you can sing evaluation time, come on. It's evaluation. Come on, you want to sing it? All right, you can probably turn it off now before your parents have to pay for therapy. Have a great evening. Bye. Well, they're Kool and the Gang, and back in 1980, I think I was a sophomore the first time. Yeah, my first year as a sophomore. Anyway, these guys were awesome. Had a huge, massive hit called Celebration. Celebration time, come on. It's a celebration. Okay, yeah. Anyway, I was pretty cool with my boombox and stuff. What does that have to do tonight? We can all sing it. Evaluation time. Come on. It's evaluation. All right, you better turn off the video right now before your parents have a big therapy bill to pay. Thanks for listening. Have a good evening.